What if humans were suddenly lived in total darkness? No sun, no stars, no artificial light, just endless black. Imagine waking up to a world where you can't see your own hands, where familiar landmarks vanish, and even the concept of day and night disappears. Our eyes, built for light, would struggle to function, and humans would be forced to rely entirely on other senses: hearing, touch, smell, and intuition. Navigation, hunting, farming, even social interactions would become a constant challenge. Over time, your body and mind would try to adapt, but the consequences could be profound, physically, emotionally, and socially. Stick around, because by the end, you'll see just how humans might survive or fail in a world without light, and why darkness is more dangerous than it seems. I'm Harris, and you're watching What If Harris, where we explore human survival in extreme scenarios. Today, we're imagining life in total darkness. We'll explore how humans would react, how the body and mind would adapt, and whether survival would even be possible when light, the foundation of life as we know it, vanishes completely. If humans were suddenly forced to live in total darkness, the world would change in ways we rarely imagine. Our bodies and brains are designed to rely on light. Sunlight regulates our circadian rhythm, tells our brain when to sleep and wake, and drives essential biological processes. Without light, the natural cues that control hormone production, body temperature, and even mood would disappear. Over days and weeks, our internal clocks would struggle to function, leaving sleep cycles irregular, energy levels inconsistent, and mental health increasingly strained. The human eye, evolved to detect light across a wide range, would be essentially useless. Night vision might help slightly at first, but in complete darkness, even rods and cones in the retina can't detect anything. Your brain would try to compensate by sharpening other senses: hearing, touch, smell, but these are limited and cannot fully replace vision for navigation, hunting, or avoiding hazards. Walking through unfamiliar terrain, recognizing friends, or finding food would become exponentially harder, increasing accidents, injuries, and disorientation. Life in total darkness also disrupts ecosystems and food sources. Plants rely on photosynthesis, which needs light, so agriculture would collapse without artificial lighting. Animals that depend on vision for hunting or foraging would struggle, affecting the food chain that humans rely on. Rivers, lakes, and weather systems would continue, but without light, people could no longer use visual cues to manage water, grow crops, or track environmental changes, making survival far more difficult. Beyond the physical challenges, total darkness impacts the mind. Humans are adapted to daylight and night cycles. Without them, the brain experiences confusion, anxiety, and stress. Social interactions suffer when people can't see facial expressions, body language, or gestures. Isolation would increase, and communities would have to develop new ways to navigate safely. In short, humans cannot survive naturally in total darkness without technological support. Our biology, culture, and ecosystems are all intertwined with light. To endure, we would need artificial illumination, sound or tactile navigation aids, and highly structured environments to replace natural cues that guide our bodies and minds. Total darkness is more than just an absence of light. It's a complete disruption of the systems that sustain human life. The moment humans are plunged into total darkness, the changes begin immediately, even if the air, temperature, and gravity remain the same. At first, your eyes strain to detect even the faintest light, but nothing appears. Pupils dilate fully, attempting to capture every photon, but the retina can't register any signals. Your brain quickly realizes vision is useless, and within minutes begins relying more heavily on hearing, touch, and smell to interpret your surroundings. Navigating even familiar spaces becomes disorienting as landmarks disappear and shadows vanish, leaving only uncertainty.
Within the first hour, your body starts reacting to the lack of light in ways you wouldn't normally notice. Melatonin production surges as your brain interprets darkness as nighttime, making you feel drowsy even if it's supposed to be daytime. Heart rate may drop slightly, blood pressure adjusts, and body temperature begins to fluctuate since circadian rhythms no longer have cues from sunlight. Lungs, skin, and other systems initially function normally, but stress and confusion heighten over time. By several hours in, the psychological effects begin to mount. Without visual input, the brain struggles to process time and space. Anxiety and disorientation increase, and senses like hearing become hypersensitive. Every creak, echo, or distant sound can feel amplified, creating tension and fear. The skin may feel more sensitive, as touch compensates for vision. In groups, social interactions become harder. Facial expressions and gestures are invisible, forcing people to rely on voice and tone alone, which can create misunderstandings and conflict. After a day in total darkness, sleep-wake cycles collapse. Melatonin and cortisol release are no longer synchronized, leaving you drowsy at random hours and alert at odd times. Cognitive function declines. Focus, memory, and decision-making become impaired. The brain compensates by strengthening connections for auditory and tactile perception, but these are slow adjustments. Mood disorders like depression and irritability start to appear. Over several days, physical systems begin to feel the strain. Blood pressure may fluctuate unpredictably, circulation slows in some areas, and minor dehydration or poor eating habits worsen as navigating to resources becomes more challenging. The lack of sunlight also prevents vitamin D production, weakening bones, muscles, and immune responses. In extreme isolation, humans may experience hallucinations, mistaking sound or touch for threats, and the emotional burden becomes overwhelming. Environmentally, life continues, but humans struggle to interact with it. Crops that rely on sunlight fail unless artificial lighting is used. Outdoor temperature and weather are harder to judge, increasing risks of exposure, burns, or hypothermia. Navigation without landmarks is almost impossible. Even small changes in terrain or pressure become hazards. Gravity, atmosphere, and other physical constants remain unchanged, but the inability to see makes every movement uncertain and dangerous. Over weeks, humans may partially adapt through heightened other senses and structured routines with artificial light. Communities might develop low-level illumination or tactile markers to navigate safely, and technology becomes essential for food, water, and shelter management. However, survival outside these controlled environments is extremely limited. Bodies adjust partially, but psychological strain, social disorientation, and environmental hazards keep total darkness as one of the harshest conditions humans could ever face. In essence, living in total darkness is not just the absence of light, it is a continuous assault on the body, mind, and social systems. Humans can survive with careful adaptation, but only by creating artificial structures, routines, and cues to replace the natural guidance that sunlight has provided for millions of years. Without these interventions, the darkness is overwhelming, relentless, and unforgiving. Surviving in total darkness would be one of the greatest challenges humanity could face, but theoretically, some strategies could increase the chances of survival. The first and obvious requirement is creating reliable sources of artificial light. Solar power is no longer an option if the sun is gone or inaccessible, so survivors would need generators, batteries, or alternative energy sources like geothermal or wind to power lamps, LED systems, and other essential equipment. Light would become more than convenience. It would guide navigation, support mental health, and sustain indoor agriculture.
Shelters would be critical. Humans would need enclosed, structured environments to safely store food, water, and tools while avoiding hazards caused by complete darkness. Even simple tasks like walking or carrying objects would be dangerous without visual cues, so tactile markers, glow-in-the-dark guides, or low-level lighting could prevent accidents. Multi-level bunkers or underground habitats could also maintain stable temperature and air quality, further supporting long-term survival. Food and water supply would be another major concern. Agriculture dependent on sunlight would fail, so hydroponic systems with artificial lighting, vertical farms, or lab-grown food could sustain communities.
Water would need to be carefully stored and recycled, as rivers or natural sources would be hard to navigate and monitor in the dark. Automated systems or robotic assistants could help transport and manage resources, reducing human exposure to hazards. Protective clothing or suits might help during brief excursions outside shelters. Suits could include built-in lights, tactile sensors, or oxygen supply if air quality is compromised in poorly ventilated areas. While these measures can offer temporary safety, they are not a long-term solution for living in total darkness. They cannot replace the need for structured, illuminated environments. Human adaptation over time would also play a role. People might develop heightened senses of hearing, touch, or smell, allowing better navigation and communication in darkness. Communities could create routines, sound cues, or vibration-based systems to coordinate safely. Mental resilience would be critical, as long-term absence of light can cause depression, disorientation, and social strain. Structured schedules, light substitutes, and social interaction would help maintain cognitive and emotional health. What is impossible, however, is living freely outside these controlled environments. The human body and mind are designed to rely on light. Without it, vision fails, circadian rhythms collapse, and the natural food systems disappear. Accidents, injuries, and disorientation would increase dramatically, making open-world survival almost impossible. Even the most resourceful humans would face severe limitations without artificial light, structured shelter, and careful resource management. In essence, survival in total darkness is theoretically possible, but only under highly controlled conditions. Artificial light, secure shelters, advanced agriculture, and technology-assisted navigation become essential. Humanity could endure in isolated pockets, but the world as we know it would be transformed into a place of constant caution, reliance on technology, and careful planning. Total darkness would challenge every aspect of human life, forcing us to depend on ingenuity and cooperation to survive. Living in total darkness would push humans to the very edge of our biological and psychological limits. Without light, our bodies lose their natural rhythm, our eyes become nearly useless, and the world becomes a maze of uncertainty and danger. Survival would be possible only in carefully controlled environments, shelters with artificial lighting, reliable food and water systems, and technology to guide movement and communication. Outside these zones, accidents, disorientation, and environmental hazards would make life nearly impossible. This scenario highlights just how dependent we are on light, not just for vision, but for our health, our food systems, and even our sense of time. It's a reminder that many of the things we take for granted, like sunrise and daylight, are actually critical for life itself. Humanity's survival would depend on ingenuity, cooperation, and carefully designed systems to replace what nature normally provides. It also makes you wonder, how adaptable are we really? Could we thrive if the fundamental cues of our world disappeared? If this idea made you think, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more explorations of extreme what-if scenarios where science meets survival in the most unexpected ways.